Everyone, and thank you for joining us in today's webinar, Leveraging Enterprise Professional Networking to Create Talent Market Efficiencies, where we'll explain how HR leaders can make truly radical transformations to align with the goals of the business, as well as show you a quick tour of the UTMO product. My name is Crystal Mest, Vice President of Marketing for UTMO, and I'll be your host today. A few housekeeping items before we start. All participants will be muted throughout the duration of the webinar. However, we will be taking questions via chat. So to submit your question, please click on the chat at the bottom of your menu bar and submit any questions that you might have. This webinar will also be recorded and will be available to you at utmo.com/webinars. Next, I'd like to introduce you to our presenters for today. First up, we have Promise Felon, CEO and founder of UTMO. Promise is both passionate and a visionary, is an experienced entrepreneur, product, and operations leader. She founded, grew, and exited a profitable multi-million-dollar services firm serving boards and CEOs of large private and public companies. As a member of a high-growth business unit at EA Systems, now Oracle, Promise managed both strategic and field-facing product management and marketing functions for the company's integration products, as well as programs designed to identify and create referenceable early adopters and emerging solutions. Also presenting today is Rob Garcia, VP of Product at UTMO. Rob drives the product strategy and execution and is responsible for the roadmap, user experience, and interaction design. Rob has been creating innovation, e-commerce, financial, and consumer-oriented web products for more than 12 years, delivering outstanding web experiences for companies like Lending Club, Cisco, Roadrunner Sports, Knight Ridder Digital, and Smith & Hawken. Rob is also a leading voice in the startup community, blogging, tweeting, mentoring, and speaking passionately about disruptive innovation and social talent. The agenda for today's webinar is all around maximizing talent. We are also covering internal talent market efficiencies, as well as 5 radical tips to social talent empowerment. We'll also be introducing UTMO's social talent engine with a quick demo. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Promise.
Excellent. Thank you, Crystal. And I'm honored to have so many people join our first inaugural webinar. So thanks, everyone, for being here. What I'd like to talk about is the reality as leaders, as managers. We're in this economy, we're all struggling to maximize talent. It's gotten a lot more difficult than it's ever been. There are really 5 core reasons why that is. First of all, if you're inside of an organization, that organization has a multitude of systems and applications and databases that have information about the people you manage and that are on your team. And that's a real challenge if you're trying to maximize those individuals, give them what they need, and help them pursue their own career goals. So a systems mindset where information critical about each of your employees or about yourself lives inside of a system and is out of context makes managing people, knowing what they want and how to give it to them, very challenging. Second is proximity. I think most organizations are global. Having teams that either work from home or remote, that makes proximity and having the conversations at the right time also challenging. Third, for all of us in Silicon Valley and on the coast, the human factor, emotions, engagement, changes in people's moods and what they need, that's always a dynamic process. And so really understanding that and having the right solution at the right time and having the right dialogue makes that challenging. I also want to mention that politics inside of companies makes giving your employees what they need also a bit of a challenge. And then 4 is line of sight. I'll give a quick story. One of our customers is basically a Fortune 100 company, and one of the top talent in this person's organization, they're running an engineering team, the CTO of this engineering group, and his top performer came and said, look, I want to make my next career move out of engineering and actually into sales. So that CTO had no way of saying, here's how you move from my group over the next 12 to 18 months into sales. Here's the skills you need, the training that's available to you, and who you'd be working for. So that line of sight can be crippling. And then lastly, external threats, constant poaching of your good talent and incessant poaching of your great talent by their family and friends makes the ability to keep your people, keep them happy, just a bit of a struggle for a lot of organizations, large, medium, and small. So what's the impact of that? So I'm sure everyone, I hope you're laughing because it's funny to look at, but not funny to experience. The cost of inefficiency, the inability to connect that insight about your people and your talent to what they want and how they can exercise that inside of your organization, it creates waste. Simply put, we end up hiring people we don't need. We lose people with the skills that are desperate not only for this quarter, but for this year and for this business cycle. And we spend money, I know there are HR executives on the phone, you spend a lot of money investing in systems and processes and programs and courses and training and coaching that's rarely ever harnessed for the right outcome. So it does create waste. So a pretty picture for us. What does your talent marketplace look like when the skills and passions, experiences, aspirations, networks of your employees are actually connected to the jobs, the mentors, the work, the projects, and the opportunity inside the organization? That creates agility. So imagine being able to know what your organization skills are at any given time, know what the aspirations are, so what do your people want to do, where they want to go. Imagine that actually being connected not only short-term but long-term with where your business is going. So an efficient talent marketplace enables organizations to be more agile, to go after markets more effectively, and it makes the individual managers a job a lot easier. So we wouldn't be a startup if we didn't have a different perspective. So the new perspective, a different perspective, is about empowerment, social talent empowerment, where talent actually pursues aspirations. So what does that look like inside an organization? So we have several customers that Rob will talk about later, but in organizations where their internal networks are just as powerful as the external networks, where people can ask questions of fellow travelers, of other individuals who've had the job they want or who have the job they're looking for. Imagine that. Imagine where systems are actually employee-centric and intelligent, meaning these are my skills, this is what I want to do with my life, here's where I need to grow, and the systems are actually serving that on an individual and intelligent basis. Imagine motivating your team not by the next performance review, but actually talking about their ultimate career destination. I run a startup, and a lot of my team, they want my job. They want to run a startup company, a successful one. So imagine motivating people not based on the short term, but based on their long-term, personal, specific aspirations and goals. Fourth, and this is one that we feel really, really passionate about, is creating a dynamic connection between aspiration and opportunity. One of our customers, and I think Rob will talk about this a little bit, is really trying to help their IT organization more actively develop certain skills. And so they've created a program with Upmo where their employees are able to find short-term assignments inside of their IT organization that actually map to the skills they need to meet their aspirations. So that connection is where a lot of the power is here. And then lastly, part of one of the issues with having a systems mentality is, information about people lives in the heads and Excel spreadsheets and different systems, but there's no way to look at an aggregate view and know that there are engineers who want to be principals, there are sales reps who want to move outside. There's no way of really seeing that globally. There's no way of looking at that across your entire organization. And so imagine this new place where HR and where business leaders are actually empowered with data and insight and evidence that's at a global aggregate level, a team, a department, a manager. So part of empowerment is not only building connections, making things about the employee, focusing on the long term versus the short term, connecting dynamically aspiration and opportunity, but it's also about, as an executive management team, being able to affect change in an evidence-based way. So let's get radical. Let's talk about 5 radical tips to enable social talent empowerment. I know this looks like a beautiful scene at Yosemite, but what we're talking about here is there are a lot of roadblocks to empowering talent inside an organization. There are politics that we talked about earlier, proximity. So our number one recommendation is if there are practices such as you know, an anti-poaching policy inside the organization, if there are risks for managers to have conversations with other team members, if any of those exist and we all have them, remove those roadblocks from the employees because that will make it more challenging to empower talent inside the company. Eliminate this well-dressed young man, the middleman. So in this case, my team likes to say, you know, when it comes to social talent empowerment and mobility, fire the middleman, fire the recruiters, fire the people who have incentives that are outside of what the organization is trying to do. Or, like one of our customers has done, actually buy them a new suit. So a company that we work really closely with, about a 1,400 person company growing at 50% a year, is really doing something innovative. So they're actually turning some of their contract and internal recruiters into career coaches and advisors to their employees. So basically not taking every open rec or every project and turning it into an external search, but actually leveraging those people and leveraging the data that comes out of Upmode to help those teams and those individuals find opportunity.
So they become internal talent scouts, basically, or talent acquisition.
Exactly. So, you know, I wish I could show the shirt here, but one of our customers actually had T-shirts made for their entire talent acquisition team that said, "Make poaching cool, promote it." When people get moved within the organization, actually promote that because it's happening externally. So actually encourage people to have conversations with folks who would be up models or people who would be role models to your best talent. And this is one of my favorites. So often you go into organizations and they talk a lot about the success of their employee empowerment or mobility. And you know, I love this picture. You've got 9 really, really happy people, and that's how it is in most organizations. So change the mindset, move away from promoting and making successful the same 9 people, the people in this picture, and actually look at how the onboarding process and how performance reviews can actually become a part of changing the minds of every employee so that the ones who are excelling and the ones who are meeting expectations are actually encouraged to be thinking about future opportunity inside the organization. And lastly, number 5, make talent social. You know, we've all heard that an employee who has a friend at work is more likely to stay. Yeah, it kind of goes beyond that here. So we're undergoing, outside of organizations, a social evolution. And what has to happen inside is that we want to enable our employees to connect with fellow travelers, people who are on the same career path as them, models, so people who are actually folks they want to emulate, connect with people who are career heroes inside the organization. Building those internal networks and allowing those to flourish not only shares knowledge across groups, but it builds connections that intensify the connection to the company, but also it helps to retain talent within your organization. So at this point, thank you for listening to my 5 radical recommendations. I want to turn over this conversation to our esteemed VP of Product, Rob Garcia.
Thank you, Promise. And how do you know I wanted your job? You said earlier, you know, people want different jobs in the organizations. It is about that. So what we have created at Outmo is allowing people to think about and expose and make available their aspirations of what they want to do when they grow up. And many people don't know, but through the tools and through the features that we have created, we allow that to flourish and happen in a natural way, in a social way. So they can visualize their career plans, they can find and be found for opportunities, they can promote skills and what they're working on so they can be found for when opportunities arise in the future, and they can make meaningful connections. We're breaking beyond the typical connections that you think about when you think about external social networks, right? You typically connect only with people you worked with, people that you know, or people you've met physically. within the organization, those boundaries don't exist. So we enable those connections, those radical connections to happen with potential mentors, potential new bosses in the future, potential people who have those skills that you might want to learn or you want to share as a mentor yourself. So let me jump right into the product. I think the best way to see it is to play with it. So let me just jump right in. So here's the product. It's deployed internally within an organization, so it's completely within the boundaries of your company, but it's also cloud-based, so it can be accessed anywhere. And employees can set it up in a couple of steps, very simple, very quick. They can import their resume, their LinkedIn profiles, or any profile that they have in existing HR systems. So we're not competing with any of the existing HR systems. We complement and expand their reach by providing the ability for users to connect directly this way. And as soon as I come in, the system has recommended me opportunities to explore, connections to connect, people to connect with, and skills that I should be working on, or skills that I have, and skills that I should be working on. And you can see that it's very natural, social, intuitive platform. You see here my stream where I can see people that I'm connected with. I can see what they're working on. I can see what opportunities they're looking for and what they're interested in. And I can make comments and give them props. So I think the two more components of the social platform is obviously the career networking. So this is where you actually make connections with other people in the organization. And you know, we've been affectionately called LinkedIn for the enterprise because we enable these connections to happen. We all have our social networks. We all have embraced at different levels social and professional networking outside of the organization, but it's not happening within the enterprise. And the reality is that enterprises are not able to compete with the amount of recruiters and connections and friends that I have outside. So we bring it down into the enterprise and expanding it in that way. One of the features that we're really excited about is the opportunity section, and this is where the system automatically categorizes all the jobs that are available in an organization and maps them to my aspirations, my skills and competencies, my responsibilities, and where I'm going with my career. In this case, you see here, I'm a systems engineer, and when I grow up, I want to be a VP of product, right? We promise, I have had this conversation several times. And the system says, hey, well, within your company, there are 529 opportunities. Typically, when somebody's looking at different opportunities, what you do is you go to a search engine, right? And you plug in a couple of words: product management, VP of product, perhaps product marketing. And that's the extent of it. That's where it typically ends. What we have created, though, is a system that first you don't have to search. The system is doing all the intelligence for you and figuring out what makes sense for you. Second, it expands beyond the typical search keywords that you think about as a professional. And it does that by looking at your skills and competencies, by doing skills maps and skill gaps, and by expanding beyond the typical mentality of a career change means a job change in the upward direction. So most people don't think about it that way, especially the new generation, millennials, Gen Y, Gen X. They think, you know, what if I want to develop my skills? What if I want to learn more about market analysis? You know, how can I do that? Well, you don't have to take a new job to do that. You can have somebody in a different office is looking for somebody to do a market analysis for a couple of weeks, or they're looking for somebody to develop a social marketing campaign. Well, you know, here I am. I'm really interested in learning those skills, so I'm happy to be deployed to another office or to a different team for you know, a few weeks to learn those skills and develop myself. You can like some of the jobs, and the system is learning from those interactions. You can eliminate some of these jobs as well, and there's a little bit of machine learning happening as well. The system understands those interactions not only with people with the job opportunities, and makes better recommendations in the future as well. As a manager, this could be a fantastic opportunity for you to expand your teams and to bring some of the talent that you absolutely need to accomplish your goals in the company, and you know, extend your team to other people in the company as well. Another piece that is really very well received by some of our customers is the roadmap. We call the career roadmap. And this is where we help employees visualize where their career is going. Most people leave, we hear this consistently when people leave and they have in the exit interviews a conversation around, why do you make the decision to leave? 2/3 of the time is because they didn't see themselves growing in the company, they didn't think there was an opportunity in the company. Well, guess what? 80% of the time, there's something that you can do in the company to advance your career. But the reality is those opportunities were not exposed to you. So you end up making the decision going somewhere else, which seems like the obvious choice, but the reality is it takes more work, and it's typically harder to go and start a new job somewhere else. So we help with that. We help by visualizing, if I'm a systems engineer in this case and I want to be VP of product, what does it take for me to get to that end? What jobs are available? Who should I be connecting with? What if I don't want to take that route? What if I feel I'm ready to actually go up on the route on my career path here? What if I feel I want to go a completely different direction? I want to go to finance because I've been working on finance projects for the last 2-3 years. The last thing that I want to show you is what we call the talent marketplace. And what you've seen so far very quickly is some of the key features that we have on the employee side. Remember, we have built an employee-centric tool. This is not an HR-centric application. This is something that is provided to employees for them to actually make those connections directly. But what we have done, though, is on the HR side is aggregate all this information into a way that makes sense for HR as well. So a couple of things. One is the talent marketplace. Once you have people interacting, looking at opportunities, talking to each other, mentoring each other, sharing what they're working on, tagging skills, boasting about what they're working on, and being found by other people, you want that to also be exposed to anybody who is interested in filling those positions within the company, be it a short-term opportunity or be it a job. Basically, our goal is to make sure that anybody who is in the organization only leaves when there's absolutely no opportunity in the company, when they make the decision to leave. But if you turn that into the HR equation, we want opportunities to be always be filled by talent you already have, unless you don't have those skills and talent in the organization. So those 529 opportunities that I showed you earlier, the system has actually matched them, and matched them with people within the organization that have the skills and competencies and can perform those jobs. So immediately I have visibility into my internal talent marketplace, or the internal talent. I can also collaborate with other people in the organization to fill those jobs. So in this case, you can see that there's 3 people assigned to this particular job here, senior instructional designer. And those 3 people could be, an HR person, a talent acquisition person, a recruiter within the organization, or an HR business partner. And those 3 people can see the talent marketplace, or those who should be considered candidates for that opportunity. And they can collaborate around it. They can take notes. They can reach out to their managers or the candidates themselves to set up meetings, conversations. It's a more social, more natural way of actually moving people within the organization. It doesn't feel like I have to go to an intranet or the same monster.com post that everybody else sees outside of the organization to apply for a job inside my company. And we're also proud of making it very easy, very simple, drag and drop. Think about a Salesforce for talent acquisition within the organization. You can take notes and collaborate across the organization about filling these positions. So great. So that concludes the demo part of the webinar. I know that was a very quick walk through the product, but we're also very happy to schedule follow-up conversations and do private demos as well for those who might be interested.
Great. Thank you, Rob, and thank you, Promise. So now I'd like to open it up to any questions that you guys might have. Please feel free to use the chat feature at the bottom of your webinar menu. So to kick it off, we have a question for Promise. So Promise, you mentioned remove the middleman, but a recruiter is pivotal to my business. How do I sell this internally?
It's a great question. we talk to a lot of talent acquisition people. Actually, we talked to one this morning. And, you know, the challenges that talent acquisition people, I guess I should talk about the metrics. So the measure of success for a talent acquisition person, as you know on the phone, is time to hire, you know, cost per hire. So UPMO actually makes their jobs a lot more efficient. We're finding people inside the company who have the skills they need, and that actually makes the more difficult hires ones that tend to happen from within the organization, and shorten that process for finding the right person. So lower level positions are sourced externally, which is a traditional talent management activity, and the harder, difficult to find things we're actually developing employees for. So again, I think it reinforces the critical metrics of time to hire and cost per hire for recruiting and for talent acquisition.
Okay, thank you. So this next one is for Rob. Rob, what's involved to get this implemented at my organization?
That's a great question. So we always hear from our customers, oh, this must take, you know, tons of time to implement. The reality is we have developed some super cool technology that reads the jobs and imports all that information pretty quickly. So our deployment is 24 hours, less than 24 hours for a non-integrated deployment. If we, you know, some customers want to have integration into the HR systems, as I mentioned earlier, import their profiles from Taleo, SuccessFactors, Connexa, you know, what have you. So in those cases, it might take, you know, a couple of weeks to do those to set up those innovations, but it varies from overnight to a few weeks.
Okay, great, thank you. Promise, this seems like an innovative product. How do I get my legacy HR leaders to embrace this?
Wow, that's a good question. How much time do we have? You know, I think simply put, it's getting harder to retain talent, and a lot of those, you know, the person that's legacy HR people, they're held to the same metrics of, you know, recruiting talent, getting time to productivity. They have the same issues that a sexy brand new startup has. So our recommendation is really talking about the critical metrics that UPMO enables. So, you know, our customers are buying UPMO because UPMO enables them to have real cost savings. Every HR executive cares about that. It allows them to reduce their recruiting expenditures and the time they're spending acquiring new talent. Employees have adopted our product pretty substantially, and we're seeing, you know, the early signs of lower attrition and higher engagement. So I think those are really the drivers for any HR executive. So that would be my recommendation. Sell the numbers.
Great. So I think this one is for Rob. So on the website, I see a recommendation engine mentioned. Can you tell me a little bit more about what that means?
Oh boy, yeah, sure. Technology is pretty exciting. I always get excited about that part as well. So what we have is it's an intelligence. We call it the intelligence engine. It is a recommendation engine mixed with collaborative filtering, a little bit of crowd intelligence, and machine learning. And that's a lot of buzzwords right there, but basically what it does is super cool technology that learns from the user's interactions. It matches automatically with the jobs and continues to improve on the recommendations based on those interactions that happen in the system.
Okay. So one more for Rob. With all the social media out there, do employees actually like to use UPMO? What about how the managers feel about using UPMO?
Right. So that's a very interesting question, because what we have seen is the first reaction we get from people when we demo it to customers is, oh, well, we already have a collaboration platform, or we're playing with different things in the organization as well. So one thing that I forgot to mention earlier is that our platform also integrates with existing collaborative platforms as well. So if you already have a Yammer, or you already have you know, a Cisco Quad or SuccessFactors Jam, we figure out how to actually integrate into those as well. But to answer your question, how do people? What is people's reaction to social within the enterprise? It's the same way that people react to any new technology. It's interesting. It's exciting. Some people are more open to it and more ready to it because they're already social at heart. Some people are already making these connections and these networking opportunities in real life, going to coffee, going to lunch, mentoring people in reality. So it's an extension for them to actually do this through the system, but do it in a more scalable way.
Can I piggyback on that, Crystal? So, just to talk about a couple specifics. So, one example that I love to tell is we rolled out Upmo at a very large technology company, and within a matter of weeks, unaided, you had nearly 50% adoption of all their employees. And so, within Upmo, we actually measure our success based on metrics that you would use for an external social Web 2.0 application. So we look at things like time on site, number of visits, and our product is heavily adopted by employees. And we're seeing multiple times of visit each week. We're seeing long times on the site. We're seeing a lot of playing with the career roadmap. I think more importantly, managers give us an A in terms of this is now enabling them to have conversations with their employees they couldn't have a day before.
Great, thank you. Promise, this one is also for you. Why can't I use LinkedIn to do this?
Wow. So I love LinkedIn, and I think that they've done a phenomenal job of making the external talent marketplace more efficient. So when we're looking for work or we're looking for a new opportunity outside, what we've heard from customers and from companies that are working with us is that what their employees do on a daily basis, the skills they have, what they're using, that's really the organization's intellectual property. And what I'd love to just sort of put out there is, for that person who asked the question, is we want that inside the company. We want people's career aspirations as a tool for the manager. We want what skills people use today as something that their peers can leverage. We want their internal networks to be private and to be respected for helping to grow the company and grow the business and actually retain people. So again, this is what we've heard from customers, but I think LinkedIn's a great tool for external. Upmo is LinkedIn inside the enterprise to make it kind of simple.
Great. Well, I think we're almost out of time for today, but before we go, please notice the next lineup of radical thought leadership leaders that we have in our social talent show over the next couple months. Please visit upmo.com/webinars to register, and be sure to follow us on Twitter and Facebook as well. We also have our blog for more disruptive social talent information. If you have any specific questions, please also email info@upmo.com. Thank you for attending, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.